Microsoft could be putting an end to physical media as we know it, and as one of the three major players in the console market, it could also spell an end to physical media as a whole. And that's just the start of some of the devastating news that's come out this week from Microsoft. On the 25th of January, 1,900 people were laid off from Microsoft, roughly 9% of their gaming workforce. This includes people from all divisions of Microsoft, including the recently acquired Activision Blizzard and King, but also Bethesda and ZeniMax Media. While we, like most of the staff, are still waiting to hear where most of those layoffs occurred, one of the most reported things from these layoffs is that Xbox fired nearly every department associated with physical media and physical media being brought to retail locations. This was first reported by Jez Corden, who also linked these recent layoffs to the recently leaked Xbox digital-only console, something that only gives more evidence to the statement that Xbox is moving away from physical media entirely. If you're looking for even more evidence that this is the case, Hellblade 2, which is one of Xbox's biggest titles this year, is also going digital only, something that caused an uproar with fans and is still a point of contention to this day. Of course, Xbox moving away from physical media is a huge deal and something that needs to be spoken about. It's worth noting that I don't want to be minimizing anything that happened with the layoffs yesterday. Xbox or Microsoft caused irreparable damage to 1,900 people, and it's just the latest casualty in a horrible trend of company layoffs. Not to delve too deeply into the stats, but 6,500 game staff were laid off in 2023, and currently we're already only at the end of January and 5,900 people have been laid off this year. It's been reported that entire customer support teams have been completely wiped out, community manager being fired across the board, 30% of Sledgehammer Games have been completely let go, and they're producing one of the biggest video games in the world, Call of Duty. It appears that no one is safe in this industry currently, and that's just terrifying if you work in this industry and are producing the things that we love and care about and make videos about just like this. While all of these layoffs appear to be some pushback from COVID and the industry not growing as much as they should, it's still down to the top dogs of each of these companies to do right by their employees. And at the moment, it seems like Nintendo are the only major company that hasn't had massive layoffs. And I mention that because Satoru Iwata, who led Nintendo until 2015 when he passed away, said a very, very important statement about when Nintendo was at its lowest point. He said, and I quote, "If we reduce the number of employees for better short-term financial results, employee morale will decrease. I sincerely doubt employees who fear that they may be laid off will be able to develop software titles that could impress people around the world." And I can't help but feel that Iwata was right in this. Xbox have just caused even more major damage in an industry that was already struggling to repair from previous layoffs. And I think it only stings more because this follows a $69 billion takeover deal. But back to the point of physical software, this spells even more danger for Xbox as a whole and just the gaming industry as a whole. Because even if we ignore layoffs happening altogether, the removal of physical media could be dangerous for gaming forever. Even if by some miraculous situation, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of game developers get hired again, removing physical media could result in games disappearing forever. It's already been well established that we don't own the things that we're digitally buying. And the most perfect example of that is PlayStation's most recent issue with TV shows. You could have spent £60 buying every single episode of Mythbusters on PlayStation, but just until recently, and things were slightly reverted, your £60 to quote-unquote permanently own those shows would mean completely nothing. They would disappear from your library and you'd never see that money or those shows ever again. Your digital purchases only last for as long as the licenses exist, and while for the most part we haven't seen any repercussions of that, the future and an all-digital, all-cloud-based system could spell for even more trouble. If we don't own the digital games that people are buying, then what's going to happen to them when that license suddenly disappears? We're going to lose access to those titles, they're going to disappear into an ether. Game preservation is now more important than ever. There's thousands upon thousands of games that I can still play because they have physical versions. Xbox is fully leaning into them being the Netflix of games, but being the Netflix of games comes with the same issues that Netflix has. Netflix produces thousands of pieces of original content, and some of which never leaves the platform at all. And when those shows get removed from Netflix, which still baffles me as a concept if you've created the show, then what happens to it? Unless someone has most likely illegally preserved that content, it disappears into the ether forever. And that's a problem that we could start having with games, especially games like Hellblade 2 or Alan Wake 2. Netflix are currently in millions and millions of pounds of debt, and clearly the model isn't working, so it still kind of baffles me that Xbox are trying to take that same model up. If Hellblade ever gets taken off Game Pass or the license runs out from Xbox, how the hell are we supposed to play it? Physical game media is so important for game preservation. It's so important to not lose this art that we love so much. The removal of physical media is only going to cause more issues and more layoffs around the board, whether that be from game development teams or game publishers. It's going to affect people all the way down to the stores that sell the games. You can barely even buy games in supermarkets anymore, which was before one of the biggest ways to get things. Physical game shops like Game in the UK are stopping trade-ins. Never mind the fact that they're shutting down everywhere. It's getting harder and harder and harder to actually attain games. We're heading into a dangerous predicament where digital purchases are the only way to actually play a game. And unfortunately, it seems that people aren't seeing the repercussions of what that could mean. I personally don't know where I'd be without playing some of the games that my dad told me to play. And losing that form of preservation, the thought that I might not be able to tell my kids to play certain games because they don't exist anymore, their licenses is gone, is just sad. Mix that in with the current state of the games industry, and it just seems even more sad. If Xbox lead into a digital-only future, I don't know what that means for Xbox if something goes wrong. The Game Pass model supposedly still isn't profitable. A $69 billion takeover deal is leading to 1,900 losses of jobs. Not only are Xbox seemingly in trouble, but the whole industry could be in more trouble than we thought. If you liked this, check out some of our other, hopefully a bit more inspiring videos. Don't forget to like, comment what you think about this situation, and subscribe here on GG Recon.